My father when he was a kid, was actually in the Black Panthers.
Be anywhere, but when I leave, you can remember I said with the last words on my lips that I am.
When we got Out of Darkness on Peacock, people was like, yo, how did you know what I mean? Like, how did you get your film on all of these platforms and on Peacock of all, owned by NBC, and the best version of myself and striving for perfection, even though I know I'll never be quote unquote perfect in that sense, but I can try.
One of the lies that we tell ourselves is that we are making progress. We tend to equate progress with concessions. We can no longer make that mistake. See, it's no in between. You're either free or you're a slave. There's no such thing as second-class citizenship. But a lot of you running around talking about you Democrats, and the Democrats got you in the biggest trick going. When black people become serious about the revolutionary struggle that they are caught up in, whether they recognize it or not, when they begin to go down and knock off people who are oppressing them, that's when the revolutionary struggle unfolds. Not until.
A Power to the Panthers podcast, where we're here to educate, regulate, and demonstrate. Educate the youth, regulate the truth, and demonstrate the proof. And today, family, I have a very special guest in the building with me. This is my good brother. We go way back, reaching out to my father about the documentary Out of Darkness. This is Mr. Out of Darkness himself. And today we're going to be breaking down a lot of the background that my brother is in, the background that he comes from, the media network that he has created, Seven, and just all the other different things. Talk about Out of Darkness, Heavy as the Crown. And currently, he's in the works and releasing the next installment of the Out of Darkness series. So family, sit back, get ready, because the film producer, Mr. Out of Darkness himself, is here to break everything down. My brother, just break it down for the family real quick, who you are, what you represent.
Yeah, man, I'm Amadeuz Christ, film director from Oakland, California, originally. Half San Francisco and half Oakland. I claim both. I'm basically a, Bay Area film director. Started off doing music videos, really started off originally trying to doing music. I still do music, but really trying to rap. My whole life, I thought I was going to be a rapper. Kind of got into film by accident, just walking in another studio and seeing somebody edit on Final Cut. At that time, I was an audio engineer. I went to school for audio engineering, but I seen somebody like editing video and like, oh, what's that? That looks super similar to what I'm doing. And ended up being inspired to go back to school to finish up my degree. And I literally did not know what to choose. And I'm just going down the course catalog and film. I'm like, ooh, film. And really the only reason why I chose film initially was to shoot my own music videos, right? But I never saw myself being a film director. I know this is probably going to go into one of your questions later, but I just got into film, man, and really loved it. And I guess at heart, I'm more of a storyteller, even when I wanted to rap. It wasn't because of bravado or the narcissism or me wanting to necessarily be a superstar. Like if I could, I would have never shown my face. Still to this day, I'm kind of more in the cut, in the shadows type of person behind the scenes, even though I'm told I have star potential in that way to being in front of the camera. But I always like producing, mixing, editing, putting images together, putting sounds together, and really telling a story, right? So that's kind of like how I got introduced to film. Really, like I said, to finish up my degree. Once I got into film, I had to take a radio class. And taking that radio class, it was at San Jose State, and we had a radio station. So what we would do is I know I'm giving you the super long intro, but what we would do is when artists would come to the Bay Area, I would go and we would try to interview them and go to the show. I would film them, film their performance, be on stage with them. I could drop some big names right now. You know, we get into that later, but being on stage with them and then filming the interview afterwards. And then at that time, the blogs was like really popping, right? Hip hop blogs was really popping. This is probably like 2012, 2013, 2014 in that time period. So, you know, that's what kind of got me started. And then through that connection, that segued into me doing music videos. That's where I was going the whole time. Started off doing music videos, and the music videos were like, I was treating them like short films, right? You know, somebody would come to me with a song and I would just try to turn it into a mini movie and try to put a message in there and try to tell a story with it. And that became kind of like why people came to me, you know what I mean? Then I got frustrated with the music business, music industry. I wanted more creative control over what I do. I'm starting to come into consciousness at this time. I wasn't raised in consciousness at all. I was raised in the church, you know, half church, half street background, but I didn't come into consciousness until around this time, till my early 30s. I know people like, damn, how old is he? But yeah, so I decided to kind of, after I did my thing with music videos, that segued into me doing Out of Darkness, doing a whole film, right? And really, I remember I was watching a video with Dr. Clark one day, and he said to use whatever you do best and take it and use it for your people. So that's what I chose to do. So as I'm coming into consciousness and learning all of this new information and being introduced to all these new people, I just literally wanted to sit at the feet of a lot of the master teachers, like literally. And I filmed these interviews of me just basically asking questions, not really having an agenda per se, but me asking my own questions that I personally had. And once I got about, 10 interviews, there's a whole story about how it happened. My boy, Dirk, called me one day and he was like, cause I used to talk a lot of stuff on Facebook. I used to drop little jewels on Facebook. And at first people will argue with me because they didn't think I was like well studied enough. You know what I mean? And it's like the information that I'm bringing to people is just so new. And I got like a diverse group of friends from college. You know what I mean? It's not like I didn't go to a HBCU. So they had never heard this stuff before. But my homeboy Dirk, he went to Berkeley School of Music. He from Oakland. That's my homeboy, like my brother. And he called me one day. We used to always like talk about Pac on all, he won't argue with me that Pac is still alive. But he called me one day. He was like, yo, you should make a movie out of all of this stuff you be posting on Facebook, all the little jewels you be dropping. I was like, you know what? I'm in the process of doing that. But this is probably when I had only like 2 interviews done, and I wasn't really sure if it was going to materialize. And I almost was like, that day I was like almost in the process of like deleting the footage because I needed hard drive space to shoot a music video, because the music videos was at the time I had walked up, bro. I used to work at Google for like 7 years. And I had walked away from that job, bro. I just literally just like, this is not what I want to do. I literally walked away and just started, living in California with 2 kids I'm raising on my own, pretty much. Walked away from Google to pursue my dream per se. But I was really like living off of my music video money, which I don't know if you know how much the independent label budgets for music videos is very small, and then I'm dealing with hood dudes on top of that. So I'm chasing them down for money, and it's really not that much, but I'm literally like surviving and paying all my bills off my music video money. So that was cool for a while. But that kind of, at that time, it was going to take precedent over me doing this film that might have not have happened in my mind at the time. But that day I got the call from Dirk, and he told me to do the movie, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it. And I did delete that footage. Thank the creator. And I did the next 7 to 8 interviews over the next, I don't know, few months, and that turned into Out of Darkness. So man, doing Out of Darkness, and me coming from a music background, just the Bay Area in general. I don't know if you know about, the 90s independent Bay Area rap scene, but everybody was out the trunk, like Too Short, selling out the trunk. I remember seeing him. I remember JT from Filmo, where my family from. JT would driving the Gold 5.0 out the trunk. You know what I mean? Master P was out the trunk. E40 out the trunk. And the 90s, bro, just had like a plethora of independent, like everybody was independent. All the Bay Area rappers. It was literally thousands of Bay Area rappers that was independent, had their own labels. You know what I mean? Wasn't signing no majors, because at that time the majors wasn't really signing too many people from the Bay Area. They was like, y'all too thug. You guys got your own market. You the number 4 market. I think the number 1 market was New York. Number 2 was LA. 3 was Chicago, and 4 was San Francisco Bay Area, as far as overall markets for record distribution.
Yeah.
So we just always had an independent spirit, right? So I never, even when I did music, we released like 3 or 4 albums. I had a lot of people on those albums. Shout out to the RIP to Jacka. He was on there. E40 was on there. Spice One. Shout out to RIP Zoda Roaster from Oakland. Super triple OG. And even all of those was out of the trunk. Pressing up our own copies, independent label, you know what I mean? Doing everything ourselves, doing all the mixing, mastering, recording, bro. I did all of that. Artwork, you know what I mean? I remember at the time, are you familiar with Empire Records?
It sounds familiar.
Ghazi runs Empire Records now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Lot of suspicion around that record.
They say, man, but Ghazi's a good dude, man. I vouch for Ghazi. Ghazi's a good dude. I used to just watch him mix. I used to watch him master my records, and that's how I kind of like learned how to master, but just sitting watching Ghazi master. But I remember when I met Ghazi, he was working for another company, digital distribution company for music. This was like before like all the Spotify's. This is like 2005, 2006. Before, this is like the first when streaming is just hitting the scene, right? And this is everything is kind of going from CDs and cassettes to MP3s, and everything is digital. Well, my second 2 projects I released on streaming platforms, on digital platforms. I think they still are. I think that company got bought out by Universal, actually. I need to go hit them up. Anyway, moral of the story is I always had a kind of a do it myself independent attitude by watching all of these rappers release their independent albums. Like I never, you know what I mean? Still to this day, like I got big projects in mind that I really just want to do myself. But yeah, so released my own film. you know the story from there. You know, it did surprisingly well with like little to no marketing because I didn't have the budget at the time. I think we released it on Vimeo. Vimeo on demand, like the first 30 days, it did like 3,000 or 4,000 just on that platform. So I was able to stop having to heat up my house with the oven. Yo, I was hurting, bro. I was living in Georgia at the time. Actually, I had left California, moved to Georgia, bro, and I didn't have no heat in the winter, bro. I was toe up, bro. But because I had invested everything into the film, and when it started selling, that's when I was like, oh, I can make money. I could actually make money doing this. You know, this is a viable career path. You know what I mean? And
because even when you look at like the movie Rocky, Sylvester Stallone, he had to sell that dog. You know, he sold his dog.
Yeah, I remember that.
You know, and then based off of the success, he was able to get the dog back. But it's like you're saying, you know, in that one time you were in that position, but then, you know, but that goes into believing in yourself. You believed in yourself, you know, to the utmost degree.
I was eating a sweet potato for dinner every night for about 3 or 4 months straight.
Yeah.
I remember when I first was able to like actually press up the DVDs. So I didn't want to take the pre-orders until I had the DVDs in hand, right? So I had the DVDs in hand. So I started taking pre-orders, man. I remember getting like a $25 pre-order and running down to the supermarket, bro, to just get food. Like I got $25. I could go like eat, you know what I mean? I could go feed my son. And then like 2 months later, bro, I had like 15, 20 racks in my account. You know what I mean? Like literally like almost overnight. And it was just like the best feeling in the world, being able to use my mind to make money in a legal, legit way. You know what I mean? And using not just making films, like not just making the ghetto films and putting them on Tubi like people do today, but just like a real film that's really gonna uplift people, to inspire people, and really raise people vibration. You know what I mean? That's hard to do, man. It's hard to make money off doing something positive, bro.
And it goes into the creativity, the fact that you knew how to do this. You didn't need to hire nobody, right? So you had all the ideas in your head. You didn't need to convey to somebody else, hey, I want this scene to look like this and that. Nah, you was able to go in the studio, in the lab, and put all those things together. And that's just what, you know, puts it at even a different perspective when the individual could do everything in-house.
I have virtually no film crew. I shot everything myself. I'm talking about from lighting to sound, bro. It's just me. You know what I mean? I think because I would just run up on people, you know. That's how I got most of those first interviews for Out of Darkness. They wasn't like pre-scheduled. I didn't like, actually your father was the only person that I had called like ahead of time and flew him out to Oakland and San Francisco. That was big. That's the only way I was able to do that. I think because I got my tax return money. I got my tax return money. So I said, Cabo, I got some money now. I'm gonna fly you out. But he was the only person that I had like really scheduled, right? Everybody else I was in the film, I literally just popped up on them at an event and just literally waited till everybody left and, yo, I'm a young filmmaker. Can I interview you? Can I have 15 minutes with you? And then I think after the first 15 minutes of you know, as we're interviewing, they're like, oh, this dude's got some good questions. You know what I mean? So they kind of extended the interview. So that's what allowed me to kind of use all of that footage for the film. But man, it was an incredible process, bro. It was extremely rewarding. Eventually followed that up with out of the second installment in the Out of Darkness series, Heavy is the Crown, which I was inspired to do. Man, I'm hearing everybody say heavy is the crown. The crown is heavy. But I didn't hear anybody say that before 2017. actually. That's when I had the idea, like immediately after Out of Darkness was done, I had like planned out the next 3 films. And because the phrase was, heavy is the head that wears the crown.
Yeah.
Right. I think it's something like that. Heavy is the head that wears the crown.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
I
you're right.
just, in my mind, I just shortened it to heavy is the crown. And now it's like they got all types of songs called Heavy is the Crown and bands. And I'm like, yo. So I don't know, bro. I just
We
put
move
it
the
into,
culture.
I put it into the ethers. Somebody might have said it before, bro, but I created that in my head. Heavy is the crown. But that was inspired for me going to Kemet for the first time with Tony Browder, and actually going there because Out of Darkness was pretty much all done in Oakland. Like I had moved to Georgia to finish like editing the film, but it was all shot in Oakland, most of it. I think we shot Dr. Claude Anderson in LA, but all of it was done in California. But when I had went to Kemet in 2016, not right after, maybe because Out of Darkness came out, the physical DVDs came out 2016, like January, right? And then I didn't really start getting paid maybe until like March or April, and then that summer I had enough money not just to take myself to Kemet, but to take my whole family to Kemet. So my son's mother and my 2 kids came with me to Kemet into summer of 2016, and I actually got to film Kemet. You know what I mean? We went to all the temples. We went to like 7 or 8 different temples. I'm very, very familiar with them now. But I knew that Heavy is the Crown when in its inception was going to be based around religion, right? And then when I went to Kemet and I'm seeing all of this stuff, and I'm seeing the stuff on the walls, and I'm seeing the Asarian drama and all of this stuff in the Black Madonna in Child, Heru with Horus or Heru on her lap. I'm seeing all of this stuff and I'm like, yo, whoa. You know what I mean? And I'm talking to Tony. Actually, I went twice. I went back in 2019. I was able to go to Nubia, to Sudan with brother Ranoko Rashidi, rest in peace. But we, me, him, and Tony, in a small group of people, we were able to go to Sudan. We went to Merowe, we went to El Kuru, Kerma, you know what I mean? Everything, man. And it was beautiful. So from that experience, putting all of that footage together, that's Heavy is the Crown, and relating that to the origins of religion. You know what I mean? I know people like to talk, and man, I understand that Africa is huge, and it's West Africa and Central Africa and South Africa, but I feel like I chose to focus on Kemet, and a lot of people get tired of Kemet isn't the only thing. I know that, but Kemet is like the best example of a synthesis of all of these different African cultures kind of coming together, right? It's like a repository for all of this knowledge. And unlike other areas of Africa where, the terrain kind of didn't allow for the preservation of all of this knowledge, in Kemet, it was actually recorded and etched in stone, and it's still there. You know what I mean? So it's like the focus on Kemet is because that's like the best example of all of this African history that we can still go and see. Right. But also, Heavy is the Crown was heavily, heavily, heavily influenced by the Dogon cosmology. When I got into that, when Dr. Finch put me on to the Pale Fox, right? And then I'm still just blown away by the Dogon, all the Dogon stuff like that. Like we can go on for hours talking about the Dogon. But when Heavy as the Crown first comes on, you see the pale fox and then the plant, the plant and all of that stuff. So that's all Dogon. So yeah, so that released in 2022. It took me a long time to kind of put that together, but a lot of the time, like I wasn't working on the film for 7 years. I had a lot of maturing and growing to do and kind of digesting all of this knowledge, bro. I still haven't even scratched the surface, bro. I still like a baby. I just called Professor Small last night and I'm just asking him questions like, you know what I mean? Especially when you're talking to the elders, it's like you just feel like a child a lot of the time. You know what I mean? I'm 43 years old. I got a 22-year-old daughter, and son is about to be 18. But when I talk to them, I assume the student, child, son position. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's just so much knowledge, man. It's just, and especially like me being an artist and doing all of the artwork, all the drawing, like everything you see in there is like all of the metal nature and everybody moving and stuff. That's all, like I drew all of that. I drew it by hand, colored it, shaded it in, animated it. You know what I mean? The lightsaber scene, bro, I'm not lightsaber. The fire sword scenes in there, I had to like rotoscope frame by frame, bro. That takes a very long time.
And that's the process. Like that's why
it's
the time that it does, because it's the process, and when the outcome of it, you see the success, you see the fruit that it bears. So definitely puts it in a good perspective.
And now I'm finishing up Heavy as the Crown Volume 2. I got 10 minutes to go and it's done. You know what I mean? Of editing, not 10 minutes of work, 10 minutes of editing to do.
Yeah.
As far as the film goes. But then we moved to sound, and then that's probably gonna come out early next year. Not probably, it's gonna come out early next year. And that's gonna be, I got a whole, different growth process that happened with Volume 2. You know what I mean? It's a totally different feel. It feels and looks the same, but it's a lot more, and it's a lot deeper. And it just takes time to kind of internalize all of this knowledge, bro. It's not like, it's hard to scale art. I tell my team all the time, and I get into arguments with my brother about scaling art and just putting out these projects. He's like, yeah, you should be putting out something every 2-3 months. And it's like, bro, it don't work like that. You know what I mean? Like in the future, when I bring on like more people, like I'm not going to do another film just on my own like this again. Like I gotta, we are working on a Detroit project that's been in development since 2016. That's another thing that I've been working on. I've been going back and forth to Detroit like constantly, 2 or 3 times a year. Getting ready to go back in a few months, working on this Detroit project. Man, and about 4 or 5 of the 6 people in that project has passed on, bro. And it's just looking like a time capsule. But in order to do these films, you need funding. You know what I mean? The developments in AI is exponentially speeding up the process. But we're getting ready to release the first part of that. This is the Detroit project is a 4-part film. So part 1 is going to come out next year, probably not too long after Heavy as the Crown Volume 2. But yeah, bro, I just been building up the YouTube channel. We got the YouTube channel up to almost 85,000 subscribers. You know what I mean? I'm not as consistent with it as I want to be because I'm just working on films. You know what I mean? But
yeah,
that's another thing that I've been working on. I think when we first started, just maybe like 2 years ago, I think we were at 14K. We just, I just started doing it in my spare time with the extra footage that I had. And now it's booming. You know what I mean? I took a little bit time away in the past month or so to kind of concentrate on getting the Heavy as the Crown Volume 2 done. But I think next year I'll probably be a lot more consistent with the YouTube channel. I know I know you got some more questions.
I feel you on that too, especially likewise, just this podcast in and of itself, just pushing this, is going to be on YouTube. So just pushing that and boosting up just the following around that, a lot of people on the ground just, appreciate seeing a different viewpoint, especially with all of the politics that's going on. We just need something else for our people. Another way to look at utilizing the blueprint that our ancestors laid out, the Black Panthers, and all the different people that have laid out things that we can take that in 2024 we can utilize. So we just got to have a whole new blueprint, especially, coming from your perspective, documenting and documenting the history that, our people have seen in the past. And it just puts it in a clearer perspective that what we need to do as a people. And coming from Oakland, and as it relates to just the visualization of the imagery that the Black Panthers laid out, Huey Newton, Bobby Seale, Bobby Hutton, Fred Hampton, the list goes on. Coming from Oakland and that being your background, where did the Black Panthers influence you?
My father when he was a kid, was actually in the Black Panthers. Like, I don't know how, I mean, he wasn't like a super high ranking, but he, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just, bro, it's in the soil, bro, of Oakland. You know what I mean? I moved to Oakland when I was 12. Prior to that, I was on the other side of the water in San Francisco, South San Francisco. And it's a stark difference even between the two cities. The city is more of a hustle mentality, city boy, city slicker, fast moving, fast talking with the dudes with the ducktails, this 90s. Just moving real fast. And then when I moved to Oakland has soul. You know what I mean? Oakland has that real spirit of revolution. That's why I love Detroit so much, because Detroit has the same pride. It has the same, you know what I mean? It has the same feeling. You know what I mean? It's just like, it got so much history and just that spirit of rebellion, you know what I mean? But also that spirit of like do for self and, power to the people. But Oakland has a lot of pride. It has a lot of consciousness. Not outright so much, like it has it, but Oakland is like very street culture oriented. You know what I mean? Like 90% of my Oakland upbringing was street stuff. It wasn't really the consciousness part, you know what I mean? But the consciousness was always there. You know what I mean? The consciousness was always there. Like I said, I didn't really become conscious or whatever people call it until my 30s, bro. Because it was just the hustle, bro. It was just the hustle and then trying to survive and all of that stuff. And for me, it was like staying out of the streets. You know what I mean? It was staying out of the streets and not getting sucked into that lifestyle. I don't know if I'm answering your question correctly, but I mean, when you drive around Oakland, you see the murals everywhere. Like, we actually shot your pops in one of the Black Panther headquarters, right? I think it's a bakery now, but they had all this stuff on the wall. But yeah, that spirit was always there, bro. Unfortunately, I just wish I would have tapped into it sooner at an earlier age. But Bro, it's interesting because my family wasn't really, and they still not really on that conscious stuff, bro. They really are not. They just, my family is really, Christian primarily, and just about hustling and making money. You know what I mean? Business. My family's more about business and setting up trusts and stuff like that.
Because I think in consciousness, not a lot of entities have shown how being conscious can be lucrative, how you can make a business out of being conscious. So when you just hear consciousness, you just think it's somebody preaching, somebody talking this, somebody talking that.
Yeah.
But a lot of times you don't see the business structure that could come out of it. And I think that's what's so important with what you do, is because that you're showcasing to the people that, hey, I can do music, I can do movies, I can do that, but my primary focus is uplifting my people. And because you have the background in media and entertainment, you've been able to intertwine that with the consciousness, and that's how you're able to create the types of documentaries with the visuals and all of those things, because you understand how you can grab people's attention and what they would gravitate towards. So your background is very important, because it just showcases that at the end of the day, once you keep continuing to be successful, other people will gravitate as well, But trust me, I understand. And I think that the conditioning that we've been put under with our people, we've been just so focused on just trying to make it to the next day. So sometimes, people see, the conversations around Blackness and consciousness, but a lot of people want to see what can come with that. Now, if we start getting the reparations that is needed for our people for what their ancestors did and everything that we're seeing now, then I think people can really turn the page on just focusing on, making it day to day. Then they can really focus on building up our communities. Like we were saying, going and seeing Kemet and seeing the history, we can create those same things. And as you know, we have the pyramids here in America.
Right.
So the concepts and the conceptualizations of this, formal structure is definitely here. We just got to tap into it.
I agree 100%, bro. Two things I wanted to say. When I was a kid, one of the most important things for me growing up was to see, like, we didn't live in the big house, bro. I wasn't in abject poverty, lower middle class, but just a regular house. But the middle room that we had, one of the rooms that we had, my father had converted into an office. He literally made the closet a desk. And I remember as a kid, bro, like he had his own business, more of a consulting company. My father did construction. He eventually started working for free in the very beginning, because at that time, like, nobody was hiring. So my dad was just such of a hustler. He was just like, yo, if you don't want to hire me and pay me, let me work for free. If you like my work, then hire me. And that's exactly what they did. And he worked for a company called Homer J. Olson. And and he retired. That company got bought out by another company, ACOM, but he retired as the VP of health and safety. So my dad worked his way up. That's in my blood. But I remember seeing the business cards with our last name, Riser Construction. And I remember seeing this as a kid, like seeing like, oh, my dad owns his own business. Like we had 2 lines in the house. Like I didn't know anybody that had 2 lines, but he had a business. We had a business line and a fax machine. You know what I mean? It was just like my house was a business house. And the other thing that I wanted to bring up, but I remember when we were shooting Out of Darkness, when I had brought your father to Oakland. And I remember I had to prearrange that interview, right? When he was sitting in the chair, right? The Huey P. Newton chair. I had visited the museum prior to that, and I seen the chair, and I was like, oh, we gotta shoot Kaba in the chair, bro. That'll be so hard. So I'm like, so I start talking to the museum people. I'm like, what do I have to do to, to get to shoot somebody in the chair? I'm a young filmmaker, also a lot more eloquent. But I remember, so we had set it up. I ended up talking to whoever I needed to talk to, wrote the letter or sent the email. Bro, the day that we filmed, the museum wasn't even open that day. Like, or they didn't open till way later. So they had to have like a special staff, like open up the museum for us, escort us around. You know what I mean? It was like 2 European girls. I remember they was like watching us the whole time, like really like not just watching us, but like, oh, you know what I mean? Just like, just in awe. And I remember after we wrapped up and I was talking to your father and we were on our way back to my car. And he was like, man, he was just like, how did you do this? Like, how did you organize this? You know what I mean? And to me, it was just like, oh, I just talked to the lady and I asked them, how do we shoot in this? And they said, talk to this lady. And I talked to that lady, and that lady told me to talk to another lady. And I talked to that lady, and then we was good. And he was like, brother, he was like, the brothers in New York would have never, because here's the context, because I had to talk to non-African people. And, you know what I mean? I had to work with the European, but to be like being in the Bay Area, that's like nothing, because I grew up around, it's super diverse out there. You know what I mean? It's a strong like hood, a lot of black people out there, but then it's a lot of Asians, it's a lot of Europeans, obviously. It's a lot of East Indians, this is Filipinos, Tongans, you got Mexicans, you just got everything out there. So to me, like, that would have never been a question of the persons that I needed to talk to, their race mattering at all. You know what I mean? But he was just like, it was like, not like to diss anybody from New York or not like that, but he was just like, the brothers are so strong in their beliefs, you know what I mean, that they would have never talked to the European. They would have never tried to do business with the European. Yeah. And that was very interesting. That was something that stuck out to me for it still stuck. It still is in my mind, because it's like, bro, if, I'm all for my people, bro, but, and I would love to just deal with only African people if I could, you know what I mean? But it's just like some things, you know what I mean? Like, we don't own a lot of these platforms. Like, when we got Out of Darkness on Peacock, people was like, yo, how did you know what I mean? Like, how did you get your film on all of these platforms and on Peacock of all, owned by NBC? They're like, yo, dude. And I'm like, you know what I mean? It's just like, to me, it's just like talking to people, negotiating these deals, you know what I mean? Working with other races of people to get the job done. I never looked at it I never look at business from a racial standpoint, you know what I mean? But and I don't know, I guess that rubs some people the wrong way, but it's just like, yo, this is, at the end of the day, man, this is business. And do you want it on the platform or not? You know what I mean? Do you want to shoot in the chair or not? If you do, then you need to talk to that lady. You know what I mean? And just get it, like, you know what I mean? Just get it done. So to me, everything is just business first.
Yeah, you got to finesse the system.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it. Like, you have the individuals that will just go all out and just do whatever white folks tell them to do, you know. But then there are people that strategically know, like you're saying, we don't own everything. We don't have every product in the world. I would love to say, I could get every single product, household, daily things from Black people, but we just don't have, that right now. One day we will.
Yeah.
But and we got to work with what we got right now at this moment, and we got to finesse until we get straight, till we get on track. We got to be able to finesse the system. White folks finesse the system all the time.
They use us, all the time.
It's just, and we just got to get hit to some of the ways they finesse the system. You know, sometimes people think they can finesse the system the way white people finesse the system, and it don't really work. But there are certain things that we could, take some tips, from what we're seeing and be able to utilize that for us and utilize that for our own people. Just like I tell people, whatever you do, revolutionize it. So,
Yeah.
whatever facet of life, whatever career profession that you're in, whatever you do, revolutionize it. And I just simply tell people that. So it doesn't matter what you do. You don't have to be, a mathematician or a scientist or the #1 scholar, right? Whatever you do, just figure out how you can take that job, that profession, the tools that, you have from that, and figure out how you can help your people out, how we can revolutionize. Because a lot of people might think of revolution, pick up a gun, shoot somebody. No, the revolution starts in the mind. You have to first educate yourself to know how to handle yourself, to be able to manage yourself in this society. Just going out all willy-nilly, just thinking, I'm gonna pick up a gun or I'm gonna do this. No, it's really about, thoughts. What the Black Panthers represented, Huey, Bobby, everybody, they represented a perspective of law, because they knew the law was going to be able to put us forth. And if we understood certain laws that could benefit us, like when we look at people like Johnny Cochran, I could probably almost bet Johnny Cochran directly was, he was young, seeing what the younger, and was watching and seeing what the Black Panthers were doing, and really model his career in that direction of, doing for people, the OJ case and all of that. But he did a lot of stuff that, that was the most prominent case, but he did a lot of other things. So like I said, whatever you do, revolutionize it. Like you do documentaries, and in what you do, you revolutionize it. Like you say, in the beginning, you were more so on the make music videos, the entertainment music perspective. Then you got onto consciousness and say, oh wait, boom, I'm gonna take all of the things that I know in this area that I've been able to accumulate this far, and now I'm gonna take consciousness, uplifting my people, history, and I'm gonna intertwine the two. And that's why we have Out of Darkness. That's why you're getting ready to release your third one. And that's why, Beyond the Sky, because everything that you're doing is what's going to put, put everything in, its proper form. Because what we're seeing, today in our society, and just like I keep saying, the background that you have, people like to hear, a person was with hip hop, a person was in the entertainment industry. People can gravitate towards that. In this day and age, we have to figure out ways to gravitate towards the young people. And these are the things that grab people's attention. So I definitely, appreciate that, and appreciate everything that, you've been able to contribute to our society, even though, like you said, you didn't start off like this.
Yeah.
But there was a light bulb that kind of clicked, around, like you were saying, 2010s and whatnot.
Bro, I still feel like I'm super out of place, bro. Like, you see me, bro. I'm not daishiki'd up with the kufi, bro. I'm like a regular dude. You would never know, like, just looking at me, you would never know that I don't consider myself a super wise guru or anything like that. I do know a lot of stuff, but you would never know just by looking at me. Like, your presumptions would be, oh, he's just a regular, you know what I mean?
Yes,
he's just a regular dude with a hat on, and he probably on some street stuff or whatever.
That's why you got to remain incognito.
Yeah, bro. But yeah, and then I get into certain rooms and people are like, yo, like, whoa, who's this? You know what I mean? Like, even when I tell people I worked at Google for 7 years, they're like, what? You did what? Yeah. I had 20 something buildings under my control at a point while I was going to school. You know what I mean? But you would never know that. But I didn't wear this shirt. I wasn't shirt and tie every day. You know what I mean? Very rarely. You know what I mean? I'm just wearing the same clothes that I wear right now. You know what I mean? But just being able to blend into these two different worlds, bro. Like, I tell people all the time, like, growing up, I had like one foot in the streets because I could never fully commit to the streets. And I'll be the first to say I'm not built for that. I'm not built to go to jail and prison, bro. That is not my path, bro. But having one foot in the streets, I wasn't totally out of it though. but 1 foot in the streets and 1 foot in the corporate world. Cause I always had it. I always had a job, bro. There were times that I went without having a job and I had to make money by other means, but I always had some kind of a job, bro. Like, my whole background before working at Google was sales. So that makes sense, right? Wireless. I used to work for all of the cell phone companies from Nextel to Sprint to MCI WorldCom. I had to do business to business, bro. I had to literally, bro, with no leads, just figure out how to walk into a company, talk to whoever did the wireless stuff, analyze their bills, tell them how I can save them money by switching to this service or whatever. You know what I mean? It was always, and I think just the Bay Area is like that, you know, Silicon Valley. It just forces you to adopt a business mindset, bro. Some people are able to kind of parlay that knowledge away from the streets and more into business proper. You know what I mean? And that's something that I was always able to do. And that kept me out of a lot of trouble. You know what I mean? But it allowed me to get to where I'm at today. So
when you were talking about coming from, you know, a background in Google, you know, a background 1 foot in the streets, 1 foot in the corporate world, and then now seeing yourself have the corporation that you have, the Seven Media, the documentary that you have under your belt. If you could just explain to the people, how did you create Seven? Where did that concept come from, the name of your company?
to be honest, bro, I'll be honest. One of the most impactful things that happened to me as far as like consciousness was watching 9/11 happen in real time. Like, I remember exactly where I was. I remember like waking up and seeing, because I used to sleep with my TV on all the time. I remember like waking up and then seeing the plane hit the tower, and it was all over the news, obviously. And I didn't think it was real, bro. It was just like a super surreal moment for me as far as like waking up, because I remember right after that they had all the hijackers, and this is a whole nother conversation, bro, but I'm gonna just keep it real, bro. Like, the whole way it was presented to me, it just didn't seem like that was the real story at all. Like, they had all of the hijackers' faces on the screen like right after that, and I was like, how do you guys got all this information? How did you guys like see all of these people get on the plane? And you already knew like all of these dudes was just like super suspects already. Like, they all had histories, and I'm like, the way the story is, it just feels like too contrived, right? And I remember watching the buildings come down, like them saying specifically Building 7. That's the name of my company. But the building 7 in the World Trade Center, I think it was Larry Silverstein they were interviewing at the time, like on CNN. And he said, yeah, we decided to pull it, but it never got hit by a plane. And I'm like, how do you, because I know a little bit about demolitions, right? And I know that they're planned, right? Because I know that you have to place the explosive in like strategic areas to be able to bring a building down, right? You just can't pull up to a building and say, we're going to bring the building down that day, and it happens. It's like, it takes a long time to plan a demolition. But they did it. And he said we decided to to pull the building, and it was building 7, and that always stuck out in my mind. I was like, that never made sense. If there was one thing that never made sense to me, it was that. So this is obviously this is 2001, I think. So, and I started my actual company in 2013 in Oakland. So so that might have been the subconscious thing that made me name it Building 7, but obviously Build 7, back to the Dogon, 7 is and we all know this, like 7 is a super spiritual number, right? It actually represents perfection, right? God created the earth in 7 days. The 7th Nomo out of the 8 in the Dogon cosmology represents speech in the word, right? So that's kind of like the spiritual explanation of Building 7. It's just simply Building 7 means building yourself to perfection, right? Always striving to, because you're never going to have real balance in life, right? The goal is to have balance on that scale, but chaos is always happening. As soon as you get that scale balance, on Monday, Tuesday it's unbalanced again because something happened, right? So life is always a process of balancing yourself out, and striving for that perfection. Even with the manosphere stuff, they always say being the best version of yourself. You know what I mean? So that's what it is to me, is like being the best version of myself and striving for perfection. Even though I know I'll never be quote unquote perfect in that sense, but I can try and I could get pretty far and be a pretty good human being in the process of aiming and striving for perfection, right? So that's what Building 7 really, I mean, there's a lot of other meanings behind the 7 that we can kind of go into. But basically it represents perfection. It represents the word, I think in the Dogon, the word for 7 is soy, SOY, which also means like a woven piece of cloth, right? So then you get the whole weaving and combining things together to make something new is kind of what I'm doing with my film stuff, taking all of these images and video clips and film footage and speakers and the word and music and putting all of these things together to kind of tell this story, and creating something new from existing material. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
So so I just stuck with that, bro. And usually, when you have an idea and it sticks with you after a long time, that was a good idea, right? It's kind of like, it's like, no, that's not whack. You know what I mean? Like 7 years later, 8 years later, no, that's dope. You know what I mean? And it just makes sense. So that's what I strive for. The word, the speech, I'm talking about the spiritual component and the striving for perfection. Right.
Yeah, and it's like I always knew, 7 being that represented number that, represents spirituality, represents, the higher consciousness aspects. I always knew that there was a correlation to that, but it definitely puts it in an even, different perspective when you correlated, the World Trade Center with 9/11 and things. Because even just initially when you said that, I automatically thought, well, 9 minus 1 equals 7. So maybe that's where he's going with it. But then you actually said the Building 7, and then that's when I kind of put 2 and 2 together. Like, and it just makes for an interesting story, when you explain to people, because people will always assume that, okay, he put 7 in it because 7 is a certain number that it's a lucky number, a lot of people. And people just understand that number. A lot of times, you know, when people looking to pick a number between 1 and 10, 7 a lot of times be the first number people go to, because a lot of times that is what people are thinking. You know, that number 7 has just been so significant. So it definitely, you know, it's definitely interesting when, you know, even beyond just what a person might think about what somebody has as it relates to the meaning of a business they have, group, you know, rap name, you know, a stage name, a movie, whatever it is, the creativity and the ideas behind that, you know, like you're saying, you have a vast amount of meanings that you could bring forth when somebody asks you about what does building 7 mean. So right then and there, just goes to show, you know, our thought process is limitless in the way we think. And in everything, like you correlating it back to the Dogon, everything has a correlation to the present day and to our ancestors and the history that we have, you know, in America and in Africa, and just from a global perspective. With everything that you do, everything that you've done, everything that you currently are doing, and everything that you're going to do for the future, you know, we were talking about your children. Now, you know, your children are getting older. When they are at your age, what is the legacy that you want them to have that you wish to leave for them?
That's a good question. First, I would just say, just being a righteous person, right? Because you can have all the accolades and do all of this stuff, and you can be a billionaire and just, you know what I mean? You could just have, you could just do it all. But if you're not a good person, right? If you got all of that stuff by deceiving people, lying, screwing people over, you know what I mean? Like, what did you really do for the world? You know what I mean? And what example are you leaving for the future generations? You know what I mean? It's kind of like that Machiavellian mindset of the ends justify the means, you know, as opposed to an African mindset, you know, where morality is placed above, you know, the end result of just winning and just being quote unquote successful, right? Because what is really success at the end of the day? You're not taking any of this stuff with you when you leave here. You know what I mean? So all of the material possessions that you can acquire, you can't take that stuff with you. You know? And I don't want to be on my deathbed and have regrets, you know? Even if I mean, this is not going to happen, but even if I were to pass away poor and just look back at my life, I want to be able to say that I was a righteous person. I was a good person. Like we just got done talking about, like I strived for perfection. I don't know if strive is the right word, but that's just the word I'm going to use for the sake of this conversation. I strive to be to be perfect as a goal, you know. So being good, being righteous, being a good moral person. And also I got these words on my board, bro, and I have them written down. It's been by my door probably for the past 2 years. I'm gonna read these words. It's just a list of words. Order, integrity, hard work, discipline, structure, honesty, respect, accountability, and intellect. So that's the real answer to that question. Want me to repeat it?
Nah, codes to live by.
Everybody. So that to me is just being a man. These are the principles that my father instilled in me. And my father's conscious, you know. He's an ordained deacon, and even in his older years, he's starting to like question a lot of the stuff that was in the Bible. But my father has always been like the cornerstone for me to follow, as far as like having an idol, you know what I mean? A genuine, good, hardworking person to where you could tell like the fruits of his labor like really paid off. You know what I mean? Um, he's in a good financial position right now because he didn't work so hard and climbed up the ladder so high. You know what I mean? And to me, that's my role model. That's like the epitome of what I want to be. I want to be comfortable in my old age. Not overworked, not having an imbalance of having all of these material things and not having the spiritual element, being able to sleep sound that night, you know what I mean, with no guilt, you know. Knowing that I lived a righteous life, you know, if you want to bring it to the comedic spirituality, living in my eye, you know what I mean? Saying I have not done these things, you know, when it's time for my judgment, you know, having that clear conscience, not having the tethers, as they would say, you know, not having that heavy heart, knowing that I just did good and I tried to do good for others. Yeah, that's the answer to the question. That's what I want to leave, that legacy. And I want my kids to do the same thing, to, you know, go down the path of light instead of being, you know, seduced by the dark side. You know what I mean?
Get out of the darkness.
You know what I mean?
Literally.
Yeah. So that's the answer.
Yeah. And that definitely puts it in, just, just overall, just what we need to leave for our children, our children's children. Even if a person doesn't have children, you can leave legacies for your nieces and nephews, or just even the young people that you might come across, and that goes a long way for the youth, because the youth just want to be heard. They want to know that people are hearing what they have to say. Want to know that people can respond, and it just doesn't go in one ear and out the other. It definitely goes, very, very far when we can join the older generation and the younger generation, and we can get on one accord, and we could get on code. All of those things those words that you were just describing, as it relates to us getting on code, black code especially, because that's really where it's headed for our people. Is there any of the last gems, any of the last words that you would like to drop on the people?
Last words. Yeah, Heavy is the Crown Volume 2 is coming. Detroit project is coming. It's called Walk Through the Valley.
Out of Darkness, is that just Out of Darkness 2? Or is there...
It's Heavy is the Crown Volume 2.
Oh, Heavy is... Okay.
So people been waiting on that for a while, man. People have been like inboxing me like every day. Yo, when is the Volume 2 coming? I'm working on it. So now it's finally coming out.
Yeah, people got to understand. Like, you tell people I'm doing everything,
yeah,
and people won't bother you for a couple years when they know you're doing
everything. They
won't be clocking you like that.
I called Professor Small last night. The first thing he said, he's like, "How you doing? Where you been? Where you been?" I said, I've been working on Heaviest Crown. He said, "Okay, brother, I know you've been working." So I've been working, bro. But man, as far as like for the people, man, we gotta do better. And I'm not saying that in any negative way, man, but it's just like we have to, as a people, strive for that perfection. And we got to get along, man. I think I want to do like a film in the future. I might get in trouble, bro, but I really want to do a film on, I don't know what would be the main focus, but it would be along the lines of the inception of feminism and or the destruction of the black family. Because
Yeah.
if you look at, bro, in the 50s and 60s, bro, we were the most married people, like black people, African Americans. We were the most married people. I think it was like at an 80 or 90 something percent we were married. And now it's like totally, it's just inverse. So something happened, bro, in the 60s and 70s that really, you know, there was an attack after the civil rights movement. I believe, this is my own theory, I believe that, you know, they really hit us back really hard after the civil rights movement, and we just like we celebrated, and then everybody just went home, and it's like, bro, nah, you just went up and slapped a bear in the face. Like,
Yep.
he's going to attack you, bro. And we got attacked, and our community, bro, I would just say in a loving way, needs a lot of improvement. You know what I mean? Like, the way we get along with each other is a lot of room for improvement. This whole gender war, and then the folks exploiting that, and really, because you can't have a nation without having strong families. So if you want to destroy a nation, you destroy the family. How do you destroy the family? You pit the woman against the man to the point where they can't get along no more. So that's what I would like to, that's like, all of the spiritual stuff is cool, and all of the black history stuff is cool, but that's really what occupies my mind like 90% of the time, because I'm raising children. You know what I mean? I'm
Yep.
trying to be the best father I can be to my children, and it's just like, it shouldn't be this hard. Like, you know, I'm just talking about like internal stuff. You're not disregarding all the external stuff. It's just like, bro, like this needs to be fixed. So, yeah, that's what I want to leave the people. We gotta act like we love each other. You know what I mean? We gotta act like we
Yep.
love each other, and get along with each other, and that's the whole like basis of the whole Kemetic philosophy, bro. When you see the Trinity, you know, Aset, Asar, and Heru, you know, that's the family, bro. You know what I mean? That
Yep.
as Professor Small would always say, that's the image of God. That was our image of God. It wasn't no white man in the sky, bro. It was the family. Like, that's the center of everything. And you could just see, you know, I don't got to say too much. Everybody knows the state of the black family. You know, that's why I take my hat off to you, bro, for being married, and, you know what I mean, being a husband. You know what I mean? Because that's
Yes,
a
sir.
lot of work, bro. It's a big responsibility. It's a big responsibility, and for you to take that step, I haven't even taken that step yet. So I take my hat off to you, literally. And I commend you for that, bro. Yeah, bro. So just the that's that reparation. That's the true reparations that we need, is the reparation, the repair of the family. That's what I want to leave the people with.
Yep. And you know, even just a lot of things we're seeing with, like, trust me, that black dude with that white woman get reparations. That black dude ain't gonna be with that white woman. See, a lot of these black dudes is with these white women because they think that getting with them, they might be able to get the house quicker, might be able to get the job quicker, might not have to, you know, because of the way our history has been set up for us. We don't have the house. We don't have all of these inheritances the same way white people do. So some of these brothers do get with these white women thinking they're going to get a piece of that because they, in comparison of being with a black woman. But trust and believe, let that black man be confident in himself, you know, have money in his pocket, have comfortability. He ain't going to be checking for Becky. You know, he going to be going back to the root, to the source. You know, it's only because we out of whack right now. Some of our brothers are being led astray. But let us get back to our original habitat, you know.
Yeah.
And we would see a lot. We might see some, but the mass majority of it, trust and believe, we wouldn't see.
Yeah. We need to promote male leadership. And that's gonna get me in trouble. What do you mean? But building 7, okay. Builders. My father worked in construction. Men are the builders. The women are the nurturers and the maintainers. You know what I mean? And it's our task, because we have been tasked with this job. It is building. That's why I put the building in front of the 7. We got to build. So, but that needs to be supported. So you need Black community, with an African American community, whatever you want to call yourselves, Moors or whatever we whatever we want to call ourselves today. We need to really support that male leadership, because that male leadership is what's going to go out and compete with all the other men. You know what I mean? And that needs to be a focus, bro. We need to really focus on these boys, bro, these young Black boys out here, because they are struggling. You know what I mean? And they don't have no male positive role models that they can follow. There's no manhood training, you know what I mean? Or very little of it. And these are the boys that we are tasking as a community to be the future leaders and builders of the society. I think that's a strong point that I really want to hammer home to, because I'm raising a son, and I know how hard it is, bro. I know how hard it is to be a young boy with melanin in your skin. You know what I mean? It's very challenging. It's very difficult. And you got enough stuff to deal with it is from the society and, the quote unquote white supremacy and all of this stuff that people want to argue about exists or doesn't exist. Come on. But these are the boys that's going to have to be supported if we want strong families and a strong nation. That's what I'm going to say.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, family. My brother Amadeuz Christ with the information per usual. So, family, it's been another wonderful episode of Power to the Panthers podcast. My brother Amadeuz, what a wonderful way to wrap it up, talking about family, because that's what the future holds for us. So, with that being said, the Black family, we appreciate your time. This has been another wonderful episode, Power to the Panthers podcast. And like we usually do at this time, Huey, take us away.
The community is now going in its first phases of organizing itself in order to attend to the ills that we've been suffering so long. It was a very hard fight, and it was a fight among class brothers and friends. But most of the times when we enter into these kind of contradictions, even among our friends, we come out with something in the interest of everyone.
Thanks for watching. This episode of Power to the Panthers podcast has been brought to you by Panther Prince Productions.